I have a strange relationship with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. I know almost all of the lore, have watched many MatPat videos, listened to the fan music, watched the Minecraft animations, basically all throughout 2020, and even bought and read the Silver Eyes book trilogy. Basically everything except actually playing the games. I have UCN, which is pretty disconnected, Security Breach, which is just, and then Help Wanted. Help Wanted was one of the games that I was most looking forward to when trying out when I first got a VR headset. It seems surreal to actually have giant creatures pop up in your face, actually being in the offices, and really see animatronics walking down the hallways towards you. When I actually got the game, it 100% lived up to the hype. It wasn't so terrifying that it became unplayable, but there was a fair amount of terror with some of the specific jump scares, and most of the levels generally have great ambience to them. One of the most interesting things about this game and the FNAF franchise as a whole is the brief moments of lore. Most FNAF games are just gameplay, relying on the players to pick up things that actually decipher what the hell is happening, and this makes it all the more exciting when the game directly explains things to you or the story actually gets going. Think the Happiest Day minigames, Henry's speech, or the Michael monologue and Sister location. These moments became so memorable because of all of the difficulty, teamwork, and perseverance to even be able to access these story beats, alongside the fact that the story it tells is generally pretty effective and emotional. This all brings me to my favourite FNAF game I've played, of the three. Help Wanted is a pretty fantastic game. It has great gameplay, except for the plush baby level, really effective jump scares, except for the plush baby level, great gameplay balancing, except for the plush baby level, and the flawless atmosphere. Okay, the plush baby level is that. The highlights were definitely the vent repair levels, Nightmarian, Nightmare Fredbear, and Funtime Foxy. These had both really exciting gameplay that kept you edging on edge throughout the entire thing, and a good degree of self-control which required seeing how long you'd go in the danger zone. Sometimes the levels felt a bit frustrating when you die right at the end, but this is overall a really solid game, and one I definitely recommend. The main reason I bring up Help Wanted is how it manages to incorporate lore. I think this game does this the best out of any FNAF game. This is because of how engrossed you become. The other FNAF games were works of fiction. You got lore dumps from fictional newspaper clippings that happened to be placed in the camera, from secret minigames completely upholding the style of the game, and monologues. These are all things that, while do teach you the lore, make you aware that you're learning the lore. This is a really annoying byproduct of video games because it doesn't appear anywhere else. When watching a really good movie, you don't think about the clues or the implications, you think about the story itself. Same with books, TV shows, but with video games, there seems to be this layer that doesn't allow you to do that. Well then, how do you force people to treat it as such? Take MetaQuest and borrow the meta. Sometimes, to make people think what's happening in the game is really happening, you have to treat it like it is. The hidden tapes, glitch trap entity, and especially final level really give you this feeling like you're going behind the game's back and uncovering the truth, rather than just uncovering more of the game. And I decided to outline why I think the pizza party ending from FNAF Help Wanted is a perfect video game ending. Also, the trap ending is pretty good, but kinda underwhelming considering the build-up, so I decided to ignore it. Okay, let's get straight into analysing it. First, and arguably most importantly, is the build-up to the level. For a moment to have impact, it needs a lot of build-up, and the build-up needs to be good. Think of it like this. If you pass your friend a ball, the ball makes very little impact. If you throw your friend a ball, it makes a bit of an impact. If you use a bazooka to launch a ball right into your friend's stomach, it makes a lot of impact. Because most of the FNAF games are very cryptic lore dumps, build-up would take away from the moment. However, since Help Wanted has a lore dump at its climax, this makes it a prime example for some Class A build-up, which it cleanly does. First, the presence of Glitch Trap. Glitch Trap will have his own segment later, but for now, I can pretty easily say that he is what reminds the player that they are not safe. The narrator makes it abundantly clear that the player is never in any danger of being damaged by the levels themselves, but since he never mentions this person waving to us from the hallways, we can only assume that it's a threat. But since we can't do anything about it, we just have to be wary of it constantly, knowing it will be important later. Glitch Trap always being there to greet us makes it so we never forget what this game is truly about. This is vital in making a build-up, because if we forget the point of the story, the culmination of this point is going to be less impressive. As is, once we finally see Glitch Trap in a position of power over us, it makes it abundantly clear that the climax is in sight. There's also the elusiveness of the level itself. In standard mode, Night Terrors is already by far the most intense game mode. The office levels are just exactly what you've done before. Both parts service and vent repair have a clear structure that helps you out, and even the dark rooms levels are built less like horror ideas and more like video game levels, which is even just a small filter for those terrifying situations. But Night Terrors isn't like that. It's a 1v1. You're directly trying to not be killed by an animatronic. You have to figure out the means of doing so yourself. Also, the jump scares are scary. It's also just built up like the final levels you should be beating, being put at the end of the menu and all that. So the Darklight version immediately builds intrigue, especially after seeing there's only one level. And then once you realize that you can't even enter it until every single level is completed, Darklight included, that not only makes the player more curious, but tells them what to expect. This is the final level. It's the combination of all these nightmares you've had to go through. People don't have to worry about the ending may or may not come, it's just there. Anyways, there's not exactly too much more to say about the build-up because of the anthology style of the game, but that just means we can move on to more, namely the funny bunny hellfella himself, Willie Afton. Glitchtrap is probably one of my favourite FNAF characters. It kinda seemed like a weird concept, like William died in an animatronic suit, but then he came back. Then he died in a fire, but he escaped. Then he died in a fire again, but he's now a digital hologram. But they actually make it work really well. He feels by far the most dangerous version of William. The most like a predator. Like you're constantly one muscle twitch away from him attacking you, at which point there's nothing you can do. And understanding why Glitchtrap is so effective is incredibly important in understanding why the Pizza Party level is so good, because this is the first level we have featuring Glitchtrap, the first time it properly communicates with us. If Glitchtrap had been poorly conceived, then the level wouldn't have been nearly as terrifying. First up, the design. Glitchtrap has a really good design. Most of the FNAF animatronics were designed to be scary or uncanny, but this one by far does it the best, tied maybe with the FNAF 1 animatronics. There's something about its facial structure that makes the mind immediately think watching, but the body immediately perceiving it as soulless. Like you feel as though it's about to start speaking to you before you remind yourself that it's just a silly rabbit costume. The purple vest is a nice little callback, and I think not making it completely obvious who this guy is supposed to be from the start was a great choice. If it had been identical to the rabbit in the FNAF 4 minigame, golden skin, pull-apart body, generally resembling Golden Freddy, then the ending of the game wouldn't have been as much of a disturbing plot twist. The fact that it's somewhat poorly fitted also helps to separate it from the other standard animatronics. Each and every one of them, even the nightmare ones, looks designed. Designed to induce fear, but still designed. Withered Bonnie, the red eyes, the lack of an arm, the specific tethering, these are all iconic and therefore less effective. Molten Freddy, a molten-faced, wide body, hard to tell apart, you know you're in the mood when he walks into the room. But you're not prepared for Glitchtrap. This isn't the product of a designer, this is a real person that wasn't able to get his design perfect, but can therefore think, consider, and strategize. Glitchtrap design really cements the idea that you don't know anything about this guy, and you have no way of stopping it. Speaking of which, my next point is that this fella is bloody immortal. If we ignore the "I always come back" memes, let's consider the game on its own. We see this rabbit occasionally, it's being creepy on the side there, so chances are it's going to be important, likely a villain. So if it's a villain, it'll have to be defeated. I wonder how that's going to happen. Wait, I actually do wonder how that's going to happen. This thing is a piece of code, so we can't physically attack it. It's clearly a real person, so it's not like we can just defeat it in a minigame. Wait, is it getting closer? Oh, what am I going to do? And then get right back to playing the game. Because really, if you've played the game, how did you expect to win against Glitchtrap? One of the most important factors in a good villain is threat, and having a villain that you know can be defeated but you just have no goddamn idea how is pretty threatening. This is really not helped at the Pizza Party level, when we literally have to follow its instructions. It felt like the world's worst secret agent, quite literally walking directly into the villain's trap. Glitchtrap's imperceptibility makes it far more terrifying than any previous FNAF villain that can be somewhat easily dealt with, and also keeps Glitchtrap on the player's mind throughout the entire game. Finally, I want to bring up the information that we do get about it, and more importantly, how that information is delivered to us. We learn a bunch of backstory about this evil computer program, how it's making people act differently off these tapes, basically a web episode from the Magnus archives. But what is most interesting to me is how this information is presented to us. To collect these tapes, you have to scour the levels, checking for every nook and cranny, then going to a secret spot, getting the tapes in the right order, all very cryptic missions. Despite this, the tapes themselves are very direct. It's not a secret code, not some specific words, not more instructions. The narrator is very direct in telling you exactly what happened and why Glitchtrap is a massive problem. This not only makes it so we don't even consider the idea that Glitchtrap is no big deal, but also makes the whole situation more grounded in reality. If there had been a puzzle to figure out what this Glitchtrap's deal was, that would have been a reminder that you are in fact playing a video game. As is, it genuinely feels like you have to dodge all the in-game boundaries and Glitchtrap's ever-present essence just to learn who you're fighting against. As I'm sure you can tell, this makes it much more terrifying. Anyways, I think I've talked about the other aspects enough, let's get into the level itself. The Pizza Party level starts in the bedroom. A slow melancholy lullaby begins to play. You have 2 doors to go through. The entire room is bathed in a disconcerting dark fluoro light. You have an arrow telling you where to go, and you don't trust it. You go through one of the 2 doors and are presented with more options. You find yourself travelling through this maze, the lights and music being the only things keeping you on track. You find animatronics that you've met before, but there's something slower about them, as though they're just as afraid as you are. Eventually, after following the arrows, the light goes away, and you're somewhere where you were supposed to be years before. Okay, edgy description aside, the hands down best part about this is the atmosphere. Probably the best ambience I've ever felt in VR. It's so unexpected. The previous FNAF games had unimaginably chaotic final nights where you had to constantly be aware of all and any danger. But now you can move slowly, you have to figure out what is and isn't a threat on the fly, and the music, my god. There's nothing quite like finally being able to play the level after hours of trying to beat the other levels, bracing yourself to what's about to come, and then letting your guard drop ever so slightly once you realize you have nothing to brace for, despite being in more danger than you've ever been in before. The lighting is also just fantastic. The blue, purple, red color scheme is absolutely iconic. It's such a subtle way of making the place that felt so familiar suddenly feel incredibly deserted and strange. Being allowed to freely move around the halls with no animatronic backlash is yet another sign that you are not where you're supposed to be. Another aspect that helps with this theme is the environment itself. The easiest thing to bring up on this point is the writing on the walls. There are a lot of characters present in the minigame: Plushtrap, Mangle, Chica, Enid, and they're all creepy, but the one aspect that suddenly turns the tables and makes the true villain clear is the communication. These guys may look scary and seem to pose a threat, but when you have another thing that is completely controlling your actions, it's just hard to fully describe how terrifying Glitchtrap is in this level when compared to the other animatronics. Not only this, but the environment itself. A combination of once familiar rooms, each with doors that lead somewhere you don't know until you make the leap of faith. Having the very final level be a giant maze is so exciting because you have to fully adapt to an entirely new scenario, something that the previous levels couldn't have prepared you for. And this works especially well in a horror game. Nothing is quite as terrifying as the unknown, and nothing is quite as unknown as a life-size maze. Finally, there comes the gameplay, and I'll be honest with you guys, this is where the near-perfect part comes in. The gameplay in this level isn't anything special, nor is it even really good. Obviously that wasn't the focus of the ending, and great gameplay isn't necessary in making an ending of this style. The main reason I bring this up is that it gets annoying. The gimmick of this level is that you pick an ice cream flavor, a pizza flavor, and then the room opens up where you can go have the pizza party. However, this isn't properly outlined. The favorite pizza doors and ice cream flavored doors aren't really put on a pedestal above the other rooms, nor is there an explanation on why this is the important step. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out where the exit for this maze was, not realizing what I was supposed to do, and after 40 minutes or so, the impact of the level starts to wear off, which is one of the worst things that can happen in a finale of a game. I eventually had to search up a walkthrough to help me through some of the steps, because there was such little explanation in the level itself. Now, could this just be a skill issue? Yeah, probably. But the walkthroughs on this topic have a fair amount of views, and there are a lot of videos, so I'd go out on a limb and say that a lot of people had this problem. Once you do figure it out, the little choices you have to help with making it feel more like this is a one big game to Glitchtrap, so I definitely don't want to change that. I just think more explanation in the process would have been helpful, maybe some extra writing that tells you this is important. Anyways, the last thing that I want to bring up about the ending is the ending itself. The true pizza party, the moment Glitchtrap becomes a William Afton. Let's just look at what happens. You first appear in a room. It's the back of the Freddy Fazbear's diner. You can see the animatronics in the corner, but they look broken. There's a pizza and some ice cream on the table in front of you, the flavors you picked. There's cheering and some confetti congratulating you. You shine the light around the room while having some of your pizza when you see Glitchtrap. It beckons you through the curtain towards the main stage. You follow him. Suddenly, you're standing in the middle of the stage, unable to move. The hand that was holding a torch is now holding a microphone, and you can't let go of it. The announcer that you heard at the start of all of Freddy's shows begins. It glitches out, but the curtains raise, revealing you. All the audience you have is Glitchtrap, dancing to the lullaby on the speaker system. You were tricked by the man behind the slaughter, and now your soul is eternally trapped. Okay, there's a lot to look at here. First, ambience. This is my favorite detail of the whole ending. The lights are out in the green room, that's backstage. This means that unless you have your light pointed at something, you can't clearly see it. This simple trick of turning off the lights at a place that is always active is one of the most unnerving things you can do. It's like being at school after dark or being the last one to leave a play center. This drastic change in tone from something that felt so familiar is so unsettling and hands down my favorite type of horror. So the lights detail is absolutely fantastic in my opinion. In fact, most of the ambience is this unsettling nostalgic feeling. This somewhat carries up from the level itself, but in real life, you don't find yourself walking through offices as a child that often. including something that nearly every child can relate to, and tainting it is what makes you feel like you have to leave now. We can also find this in the lack of an audience at the end, the decommissioned animatronics, and the announcer glitching out in his speech. The only thing that doesn't follow this pattern is Glitchtrap, who is by far its most terrifying in this scene. In previous encounters, it's felt like a ghost haunting you throughout your travels, but in this, it feels far more dangerous. If I reuse that word predator, most of you will get the gist of what the word is I'm looking for. The way it moves so flowingly along with its unblinking eyes, alongside the fact that this is the first time we get to see it not as a hologram but as a physical being. Also, the way it dances at the end is somehow just nightmare-inducing. I can't even explain it. As I'm sure you can understand, the mix between distorted nostalgia and a dangerous person is incredibly disturbing. This is actually the next thing I want to bring up. Disturbing. This ending isn't terrifying, creepy, unnerving. It is what I'd say is disturbing. When something is disturbing, it focuses on the ugly side, not the scary killer, not the terrified survivor, the victims. Most of FNAF up until this point has had very scary story moments. Think the Golden Freddy jump scare, the FNAF 3 minigames, the Scooper Room. The reason these scenes are terrifying is because they focus on very scary topics. They present you with an idea and let you mull about it. However, the Pizza Party ending doesn't do that. It doesn't give you a scary idea that hasn't been introduced before, it doesn't let you think about it. It essentially tells you outright what the children in the animatronic suits were feeling. The reason that this ending leaves you disturbed rather than afraid is because the terror is in the execution, not the idea. When something gives you a scare, you feel very intense for a couple of seconds, and then the feeling fades away. But when something delves into a concept, you think about what it said, and the fear of it is slowly released over a long period of time. It's like the difference between chocolate and vegetables. However, this is important because we can consider this alongside other endings, like the Scooper ending in Sister Location. This ending presented a very scary situation in the Scooper Room, and the terror with the alarms blaring and the ferocity of the Scooper is really well done. But after that, the fear fades away pretty quickly, ready for the next cutscene. However, in Help Wanted, after realizing who you are and what just happened to you personally, you feel really disturbed. Then, the more you consider what just happened and how it was all laid out, the fear, and even trauma to an extent, just remains all throughout the couple of minutes and credits after. And even if we ignore that, the ending works for Help Wanted really well thematically. This game, like UCN, is a sort of junction between the Four Souls plotline and the Code plotline. Not only this, but it's much more minigames focused than the previous games, and doesn't really have a connective tissue unless you do some digging. So it could have been like some of the early games and just ended with a pink slip of sorts, just saying that you completed the game. It could have done that, or it could have been A, really disturbing for the audience, and B, hinting that more story is waiting for you if you do some digging. The ending pays tribute to what got everyone here to begin with. Everyone knows about the original incident, so people take it for granted, but yeah, that was probably pretty terrifying for the children involved. This ending really sets in that these kids were real people all throughout the events of the series. This ending reminds us a lot of things actually. The dangerousness of William Afton, the trauma the kids experienced, the importance of strong ambience in horror games, and how important a strong build-up is to effective endings in a video game. I think that the Pizza Party ending demonstrates all of these to a surprisingly impressive extent, and so I fully believe that it's one of the best endings in any FNAF game, and one of my favourite endings in any game I've ever played. Anyways, that's probably enough talking. I'll be honest, I talked about the ending a lot, but the best part about this game is forcing your friends to play the Funtime Foxy section, and then traumatizing them. That or the Mangle Vent Repair. That should be implemented in far more games. Anyways, thanks for watching all the way to the end, and if you skip straight to the end, don't bring a torch with you to bed tonight. Have a nice night, enjoy these exotic butters, cue the outro music.